Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, there's a lot of talk on whether the Congress will pass a new farm bill or extend the current one.
Cattlemen learned some new ways of determining the carrying capacity of pastures at the North Mississippi Grazing School.
In today's Southern Gardening, try some ornamental peppers. They're pretty, and if you enjoy the heat of eating them, there's plenty of that too.
In the markets, a smaller than expected cut to corn production by USDA as harvest pressure puts some strength in feeder cattle.
In the feature segment, we'll take you back to last year as we review the year in Mississippi agriculture for 2011. Eminent domain reform passed and the state's first woman ag commissioner was elected.
There's about a foot of water in this field in the bottoms where at about 11:30 this morning it wasn't, and it's about, what, 3:30 or 4 o'clock this afternoon, so it's coming up fast. Probably right where we're standing in another 3 or 4 hours, we'll probably be standing in water.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
The Congress returned to work this week, but the future of the next farm bill is still up in the air.
Well, Leighton, the month of November is now being tossed around as a possible time when a new farm bill might be completed. 80 consumer commodity and farm groups rallied on Thursday in an attempt to exert pressure on congressional leaders to pass a farm bill before it expires September 30th. U.S. Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman Debbie Stabenow says we're stuck at the moment. According to Drover's Cattle Network, she said if the House of Representatives could pass a farm bill proposal, the two houses of Congress could negotiate their differences during October and then pass it when the Congress returns after the November elections. House Ag Committee Chairman Frank Lucas, Republican, said that if the House leadership would give him an opening, he would, quote, drive a freight train through it. Now, the House has only scheduled 8 working days in September, and the present farm bill will expire at the end of the month. Republican U.S. Senator Charles Grassley says that he believes the most likely outcome is an extension of the present farm bill for another year.
A harsh winter season has been predicted for Mississippi following the heat of summer. At the North Mississippi Grazing School in Verona, cattle producers learned about tools to help them plan now and get the most out of their pasture and hay systems. Farm Week's Amy Taylor reports.
Mississippi State University Extension Service specialists say thinking ahead is the name of the game in cattle and hay production. Durwood Gordon explains what he learned about adapting rotational paddocks to extreme weather conditions.
When you have 102-degree temperatures and no rain falling, yeah, the challenge is how do you keep that grass growing? And that's one of the things we learned today. By doing rotation through these different pastures, you can keep your pastures lasting longer with a higher quality. He talked about stock density, how many cattle putting on a paddock, the size of the paddocks, how to determine the size of the paddocks due to the number of cattle you have.
To do this, producers learned how to use a tool called a grazing plate meter to estimate forage production and how many days they can maintain a herd in a specific pattern. MSU Extension Service forage specialist Rocky Lemus explains why it's helpful.
This is helpful because allow producers to determine what is the grazing capacity that they might have a specific pasture at a specific time during the growing season. If the grass is too short, they might opt for letting that pasture to rest for a longer period and move the animals to a pasture that might have more forage available.
Lemus says this method can generate an efficient forage system and cattle herd and could save money. He also says proper electric fencing is easy, fast, and affordable for rotational grazing. Furthermore, the take-home message is to prepare for a harsh winter.
Be efficient about using fertilizer in your pastures or in the hay system. Maintaining the quality of the hay is very important. That will save a lot of money on feeding costs during the winter. So knowing how much nitrogen do you need, what is in the soil testing is a very important part of that system.
Lemus recommends producers contact the MSU Extension Service for a soil test. From Verona, Mississippi, I'm Amy Taylor reporting.
Have you ever thought of growing vegetables as ornamental plants? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us how ornamental peppers can add color and heat to any landscape.
A popular trend in landscaping is including vegetables with ornamental interest. Probably my favorite group are the ornamental peppers. Today I'm in the trial garden at the MSU South Mississippi branch station in Poplarville looking at great examples of ornamental peppers. There's a wide variety of foliage colors and fruit shapes. The overall impact and adaptability of ornamental peppers was recognized in 2010 when purple flash pepper was named a Mississippi Medallion winner. With its purple and white variegated leaves, it's one of the showiest peppers available on the market. The fruits start as dark marbles and mature bright red. The showy fruit are displayed in different ways. The variety Sangria holds its slender fruit pointing upward boastfully, its range of colors from lavender, orange, and red. While Chenzo pepper has elegant arching branches, the fruit, ranging from green to black to red, hangs vertically underneath. For most ornamental peppers, the plant will begin setting fruit as the temperatures begin to heat up and will keep producing through the fall season. These plants offer great ornamental value, featuring considerable numbers of fruit, all at different stages of color development. When planted in the full sun, ornamental peppers will not let you down. Their bright colors and vigorous growth will continue throughout the hot and dry summer season and beyond. However, be cautious if you actually want to eat these peppers because they're really hot. Shishi Gashira, woo! I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
And Gary's mouth is still burning according to reports.
No doubt.
In the feature segment today, we're going to look back at the year in Mississippi agriculture for 2011. It will be remembered for all its extremes. Time now for the markets with Leighton, and the USDA this week decreased its soybean forecast.
That's right. The monthly crop and supply demand numbers, brand new, came out Wednesday the 12th. That same report also forecast the lowest U.S. crop production in 6 years. Meanwhile, cotton trade is being hammered by climbing world stocks as prices for feeder cattle turn somewhat firm. Wednesday's government crop report continued to show the impact of widespread drought in the United States this year. There were more cuts to estimated corn and soybean production. I talked with Extension Ag economist Dr. John Michael Riley Thursday morning to get his take on the new figures. John Michael, on the corn side, was a smaller than expected cut to that production estimate.
That's correct. No big changes on any acreage, but the yield estimate came in at right around 122 bushel an acre. The market was looking for that to be closer to 120. So actually a slightly larger crop than the pre-report would have said, but still compared to where we thought we were going to be at the beginning of planting, we're nowhere near that number. Production for this year's right at 10.7 billion bushels. Actually brought in more corn from last marketing year to this year because of the fact that we are so far ahead of pace with the corn crop. We had some more corn to market before we closed out last marketing year, and that bumped the beginning stock number and trickle on down. You know, some changes throughout, but no real big changes in terms of the use. Ending stock 733 million bushels. That's slightly lower, about 100 million bushels larger than where we were at last month and where we expected to be. So a slightly larger corn crop, which is a good thing, but that news is kind of tethered away with the fact that we do have such a smaller crop than what we were hoping to have.
All right, and on the soybean side, I'm sure production again has been brought down, continuing to shrink.
It is. The yield estimate right at 35 bushel an acre. That was right in line with the pre-report expectations. No change in the ending stock number for soybeans, 115 million bushels. We're looking for the trade was looking for that number to be closer to 100 million, but we've seen some slack off in exports, and just domestic use has not really been there because of such a high price. buyers are looking to go elsewhere to find some protein sources and some oil. Those issues are something that the market is dealing with respect to soybeans.
All right, you mentioned price, so what has market reaction been? We're recording this late Thursday morning. The report came out Wednesday morning. What's the market done?
The lower than expected corn crop put some pressure on corn, but it was a negligible amount, so it wasn't a market, a limit down day or anything, but it did put some pressure, and that filtered through the other crop markets. So that overall, I think that we're still sitting pretty steady. We're hitting around this $8 per bushel corn price and somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 to 17 for soybeans, and that seems to be a limit that we don't want to go higher than, but we're not backing off of.
Well, let's look at cotton now on Farm Week. DTN reports a new record high in world ending stocks in the Wednesday numbers, and that outweigh the slightly friendly tone in the supply-demand forecast side of the monthly reports for cotton. Analyst Naomi Bloom thinks the big supply is going to continue to be a problem for the cotton market.
Ending stocks globally are so large that it's not a happy tale for the cotton prices, and it's likely to stay that way for quite some time. India actually is on pace to have a record crop. They actually have had decent weather because the monsoons have not been horrible this year, so they're going to be producing a lot. With the economy not good, people are not buying lots of clothing, and that's really affecting everything in China and their factories there. So likely we'll see cotton actually stay with 70 as support in the big picture and 77 as some resistance for now, and I think we'll see that continue. Also, what I'm thinking for next spring is that we're going to see a lot of the cotton producers in the southern states maybe switch to sorghum. It's kind of the up-and-coming crop, I think. There's a lot of potential for that. And of course, maybe a little bit more of a switch to corn and beans just because there's not really a big advantage in cotton right now.
A well-known Mississippi-based agricultural input supplier announced a change this week. Cleveland, Mississippi-based Jimmy Sanders Incorporated is forming a strategic partnership with Pinnacle Agriculture Holdings, LLC. Sanders chairman Mike Sanders says that this development will provide his company with a national distribution network extending beyond the Mid-South. Well, let's move to our trivia quiz for this week, and we're talking dairy with our question, and here it is. How much milk does the average American consume in 1 year? Is it 10 gallons or 15 gallons, up to 25 gallons or 30 gallons? You'll find out in a few more minutes.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports that feeder cattle prices are firming up. In the feature segment today, the year 2011 in Mississippi agriculture. It was a year that saw high winds and high water.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed in farm tractor accidents. Transporting and lifting objects with a front loader requires extreme caution. Unsecured objects can roll or slide down the loader arms and injure the driver. To help prevent injuries, tractors should be equipped with a falling objects protection system. Always secure loads or use a bale spear or straps before lifting objects. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Now, before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. A hardwood management field day will be held Saturday, September 22nd. The location is the John Green Tree Farm, 3 miles north of Bendale, Mississippi on Highway 57. Bendale itself is located west of Loosedale. The hours are 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. The registration is $20 and that includes lunch. Find out how managing hardwoods is different from pines and how you can do it. Please register ahead of time with the George County office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. A forestry short course on income taxes and the family forest will be held Thursday, September 27th. Location is the Belden Conference Center of Itawamba Community College at Belden. The hours are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The registration fee is $35, $50 for a couple. Find out what records to keep and how to handle timber tax income. Please register by September 21st with the Lee County office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Harvest pressure in the corn market appears to be helping make feeder cattle prices somewhat firmer these days. Analyst John Roach explains that whenever corn prices ease back, it benefits feeder producers.
We have people that are chopping corn and preparing to feed cattle, and so we think that market's probably going to stay on somewhat of a firm footing here as long as we don't move the corn market back higher. In fact, if we see the corn market come under some harvest time pressure, which is what we anticipate, we think that'll put some strength into the feeder cattle.
The USDA has cleared the way now for imports of whole cuts of boneless beef from Japan to resume. Our government says it has determined that Japan is now free of foot and mouth disease. The U.S. had halted beef exports from Japan back in April 2010 because of an outbreak of the disease there. Wagyu beef, which is highly marbled, makes up the bulk of the Japanese beef imported by the United States. Just ahead of our feature story, here's the trivia answer for this week. Again, our topic was dairy. C, 25 gallons is the correct choice. That's how much milk the average American consumes in a year.
Well, in the feature segment today, we look back at the year 2011 in Mississippi agriculture. For the second year in a row, Mississippi farmers set a new record for farm production value. 2011 will be remembered, however, for the tornadoes that struck the state in April. It was a year of extremes. April 27th will be indelibly stamped on the memories of Mississippi and other southern states hit by the 2011 super tornado outbreak. More than 320 people died, 37 in Mississippi. 22 of those were killed in the town of Smithville, Mississippi. All in all, lives were lost in 12 Mississippi counties that day. Earlier that month, on April 15th, a Leakesville woman also lost her life to a tornado. Weather was also the focus of another major story in 2011. In early May, the Mississippi River flooded due to melting snow and rain. The river levels surpassed the record set in 1927 at Natchez and Vicksburg. It's estimated the flow rate at Vicksburg exceeded that of the 27 flood as well. The Mississippi River levee system was tested to its limits.
And it was designed for this level of flood. But we never really expected to get this much water into the system, and certainly this is an epic, immense amount of water.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers laid 4 miles of heavy-duty plastic along a critical part of the Yazoo River backwater levee. It was predicted the water would flow over the top of the levee, but fortunately it did not. Meanwhile, some row crop farms and catfish farms did go underwater as the Mississippi River backed up the Yazoo River. A lot of wheat was harvested as water came into the fields.
There's about a foot of water in this field in the bottoms where at about 11:30 this morning it wasn't, and it's about, 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon, so it's coming up fast. Probably right where we're standing in another 3 or 4 hours, we'll probably be standing in water. We've got, most of our operation is on the inside of the river side of the levee, and a lot of it is underwater now.
While the backwater flooding caused some Mississippi Delta farmers to replant, 2011 still proved to be a record-breaking year. Mississippi farmers posted record-high farm production value in 2011, almost $6.7 billion, up 8% from the previous year. When you include $357 million in federal government payments, that figure goes over $7 billion for the first time in history. Poultry remained Mississippi's #1 agricultural commodity in spite of the fact many companies cut back on their production. $2.44 billion in farm production value was produced, up 0.2% from 2010. Mississippi forestry was second, down 0.4% to $1.035 billion. Soybeans third, $860 million produced in 2011, up almost 2% from 2010. Mississippi's cotton acreage jumped 50% in 2011, which helped it to grab fourth in farm production value, with $599 million in lint and cottonseed production. Corn came in fifth at $595 million, up 42% from the previous year. Farm-raised catfish came in sixth, $222 million, up 2% from 2010. Seventh, cattle and calves, $155 million worth were grown in Mississippi in 2011. Rice acreage declined 48% from last year, helping place it at eighth in production value, $153 million. Hay came in ninth at $138 million. The largest winter wheat acreage in 3 years pushed wheat into 10th place in farm production value with $127 million.
I owe you so much gratitude for supporting me throughout the years in my Senate initiatives, and then now as I go into serving the office of Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce of this great state.
2011 was a state election year. The retirement of Mississippi Ag Commissioner Lester Spell after serving 4 terms meant a wide-open race to replace him. Republican State Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith of Brookhaven became Mississippi's first woman agriculture commissioner. Hyde-Smith had served previously as chairwoman of the Mississippi Senate Ag Committee, and her family operates a cattle sale barn. She defeated Democrat Joel Gill. Gill is the mayor of Pickens, runs a cattle order buying company, and serves as a national officer with the Ranchers Cattlemen Action Legal Fund. Kathy L. Toole of Biloxi was the Reform Party candidate.
Today is the first opportunity that so many of us have had a chance to get together and share and celebrate the overwhelming passage of Initiative 31, the eminent domain referendum.
After several years of trying to pass eminent domain reform through the Mississippi legislature, the Mississippi Farm Bureau led the effort to gather the signatures necessary to place it on the ballot as an initiative. The initiative seeks to keep state and local governments from taking private property and turning it over to private companies for private development. Even though it was opposed by several state officials, Initiative 31 struck a chord with Mississippi voters who passed it overwhelmingly, 73% to 27%.
It goes so much further than just the initiative and Initiative 31 and protecting private property rights. I think it just makes a huge statement to everyone out there how strong our numbers are and how strong the rural vote and the ag vote in the rural community is. You know, even the governor-elect came out and said, you know, I really didn't realize how strong Farm Bureau was and how strong the rural and ag vote was in this state.
The decline in Mississippi's catfish pond acreage was illustrated clearly in February when processors of farm-raised catfish announced they would either lay off employees or cut back on their hours. Processing plants normally buy a lot of catfish in the early part of the year, preparing for the season of Lent prior to Easter. Farmers did not have enough fish left in their ponds to keep processors going until the spring wave of new crop catfish was ready to seine in June. Mississippi catfish pond acreage dropped 8% in 2011 to 51,200 acres. Competition from foreign imports and the high price of corn and soybeans are blamed for the decline. In September, Mississippi's abundant supplies of softwood fiber attracted another second-generation biofuel producer to the state. The wood fiber, along with $100 million in incentives from the state of Mississippi, convinced HCL Cleantech to locate here. The company plans to spend $1 billion to build 5 facilities in Mississippi in the next 8 years. They will be located in Olive Branch, Grenada, Booneville, Natchez, and Hattiesburg. The cattle herd in Mississippi multiplied in 2011. The number of all cattle and calves moved up 50,000 to 950,000. That's a 5% increase. Looking at row crop acreage in Mississippi in 2011, soybeans came in first with just over 1.8 million acres planted. The state's farmers harvested a total crop of 70.2 million bushels with a statewide average yield of 39 bushels per acre. 810,000 acres of corn were planted in Mississippi in 2011. A total crop of almost 95 million bushels was harvested, the third largest crop on record. 630,000 acres of cotton were planted in Mississippi in 2011, up 50% from the year before. The state average yield was 968 pounds per acre, the third highest on record. Mississippi farmers planted 360,000 acres of wheat. They harvested more than 21 million bushels with a state average record yield of 64 bushels per acre. Mississippi rice acreage was off 48%, down to 160,000 acres. Consequently, the total crop was off 48% at almost 11 million hundredweight. Mississippi sweet potato farmers harvested their largest crop in modern times, more than 4.1 million hundredweight. The yield was a record 181 hundredweight per acre. Planted acreage was another modern times record, 24,000. More potatoes, however, meant lower prices with a production value off 10%. Mississippi peanut acreage dropped 4,000 to 15,000 acres. 4,000 pounds were harvested per acre, a new state average record. This yield combined with higher peanut prices offset the reduced acreage. And you can watch this story again reviewing 2011 in Mississippi agriculture on our Farmweek website, Facebook page, or YouTube. The website address is farmweek.msucares.com. So Leighton, as you think about it, we drive around, I see more storm shelters in the state, don't you? People
Absolutely.
installing storm shelters. Of course, in the old days, they called them storm pits, and every house had one. And we got away from that. Now that seems to be coming back as they're
But you said it best. It was a year of extremes when we talk about that weather.
Fortunately, we didn't see those tornadoes this year. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, you don't have to be a music star to have a popular YouTube video.
You'll meet 3 Kansas brothers who created a music video on their farm called I'm Farming and I Grow It. It's gone viral and received more than 7 million viewers.
It went viral.
In southern gardening, crepe myrtles, they come in white, pink, purple, and red. Some say they're the true flower of the South. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.